Let's talk about Fed policy. Interest rates were hiked again at the beginning of the month. The latest numbers show inflation continuing to trend downward. Job market reasonably, we've been talking about that, reasonably strong. Is now time for is it time now for a pause in interest rate hikes? What do you think?
Well, following the Federal Reserve, because of my committee perch for all of these years, one of the things I think is interesting is people pay attention to the decision. They should pay attention to what the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board says after the rate hike has been put in place. And he clearly left room for a pause. And I thought that there is evidence now that some of what he's been trying to do, or what the Federal Reserve Board has been trying to do, is working. There are painful moments that come with it for members of the American family, but inflation is a cruel tax on poor people. And I think his effort to arrest inflation is right on target. I was talking to a group the other day, and they said, you know, one of the challenges that wealthy people have is interest rates don't mean a lot if you're trying to buy a mansion. But they matter to somebody who's all of a sudden going from an offer of 3% on a 15-year fixed to 6.5% on a 15-year fixed. So I think that his efforts to slow down parts of the economy, I think that it's having some effect.
All right. I want to ask you about Ukraine. Russia continuing its missile attacks as Ukraine readies for a much talked about counteroffensive. The Biden administration has been clear in its support for Ukraine, but last week, former President Trump would not say who he would like to see win that war. The world is watching. I want to get your thoughts on what he said. What does that say to you?
Since the end of World War II, both political parties agreed to oppose the expansion of the old Soviet Union and now Russia. The collapse of the old Soviet Union was a great victory for the American soldier and the American taxpayer, because we paid for much of that success. I thought when he said that, I wonder where Ronald Reagan is tonight. Much of Ronald Reagan's career and George Bush Sr.'s career was based on their opposition to Russian expansion. You follow very carefully what the Poles have had to say, and the Bulgarians and the Romanians and the Baltic states. None of them want to go back to Soviet domination or Russian domination. Let's be clear, I'm for Ukraine.
I want to bring the conversation back to not only Massachusetts, but in your district and in Holyoke. Last month, the state's highest court reinstated criminal charges against two of the Holyoke Soldiers' Home's top leaders. They were charged at the dozens of COVID-related deaths at the home. You know that facility very well. As I mentioned, it is in your district. The case centers around former Holyoke Soldiers' Home Superintendent Bennett Walsh, former medical director Dr. David Clinton. At issue was a decision to place veterans who had COVID together with those who did not in the early days of the outbreak. So I just wanted to give our viewers a little backfill. Do you agree with the SJC decision?
I think we're going to leave that up to the Attorney General and the SJC and let them decide how they're going to handle that question. I have a personal dimension to this issue. My uncle Bob Garvey has been there, Korean War vet. He's 92 years old. He had COVID and survived. So I'm in the midst of getting the money for a new soldiers' home there. I think that there's a certainty to it. I've talked to the Veteran Services Administrator a number of times about it, and Dennis McDonough, and I feel very strongly that this is going to happen. So we're going to replace the soldiers' home. The legalities I'm going to leave to the courts.
I understand that. Are you confident about the status of the soldiers' home right now?
Yes, I am. I feel very good about it. Without hesitation.
It's wonderful. Congressman, thank you for coming in.
You're always great.
It's always
nice to be with people that talk in complete sentences.
Great to see you.
Nice to have you here.